Week 7. Or is it actually Week 7? Yeah, it is actually Week 7, but is Week 7 a real week? What even is life? I don't know. Michael Bolton, do you have a calendar that you can talk to us about?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and don't you dare look back. Just keep your eyes on me. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at LockedOn Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel and get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com and find the newsletter, the best newsletter for your favorite team. That is LockedOnDaily.com. So what was all this calendar stuff that I was talking about at the start of the show? Well, welcome to the show for the first time ever. If you play leagues on Yahoo, again, be prepared. You may not know this. You may, but your life is about to be turned upside down, topsy-turvy, so to speak. It's not really. But what they have done is they have made a huge mistake, a gigantic screw-up, and you're about to cop it now. Because what Yahoo has done is turned Week 7, which begins December the 2nd, instead of a regular 7-day matchup, they've made it a 14-day matchup. Why? Because they didn't read the NBA calendar. They didn't read it correctly. They thought that Week 8 had no games on, which is just not true. Week 8 has games on. The difference is those games have not been scheduled yet. And why have those games not been scheduled yet? Because they're the NBA Cup knockout games. Every single team in Week 8 will play 2 games. We just don't know who they're against and when they are. But they will play 2 games in that time frame. So, if you play on Yahoo, you have got a 14-day matchup coming up, and teams are going to play between 5 and 6 games in that time. And what they should have done is combined Week 8 and 9 into 1 week, because that is when you've got a 2-game week and another 2-game week. So instead, you're going to have a 14-day matchup with 6 games for each team, and then a 7-day matchup with 2 games. Again, screwed up. Be ready for it. I also believe, I don't have a league on Yahoo this season, but I also believe that in that Week 7 matchup for Yahoo, your transactions will not be increased. So you will, if you have 4 transactions a week, you will have 4 transactions for 14 days. Now, what I'm going to do in this show, I am not going to talk about the 14-day matchup because, again, I can't for Week 8 because I do not know who plays when. I don't know. Nobody does at this point. We need the NBA Cup knockout or the qualifying group stage to finish, which it doesn't. It hasn't yet. So I don't know. All I can tell you about is what is going on in Week 7. And understand in Week 8, every team will play 2 games. And the teams that qualify through to the knockout stage will play on the low volume days. And the other teams will play on the high volume days. So if there are teams that have already qualified through, Atlanta is one of them, Houston is another one, those guys in that Week 8 are going to have low volume quality games in that Week 8. But the rest we don't know yet. We don't know yet. I hope all that makes sense. So we're treating Week 7 like a regular week because, again, we do not know Week 8. Just know that it will happen, it will occur, and there will be games on. I just don't know what they're going to be. We good with that? We good? Let's take a look at the Week 7 schedule. It's a weird week, actually, because we've got a relatively quiet Monday with 4 games on. We've got 11 games on Tuesday. We've got 6 on Wednesday only. We've got 8 on Thursday. We've got 7 on Friday, 7 on Saturday, and 12 on Sunday. Normally, you get the busy days Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Not this week. Tuesday, Sunday are the 2 busy days. So it's relatively streamable. The 12 on Sunday is annoying, but everything else is pretty strong for the week. It's a pretty good week. If we take a look at, in terms of games played, it's a relatively busy week, and it's a relatively even week. 4-game teams, there are 20 of them, and that would mean that there are 10 3-game teams. The 4-game teams are Atlanta, Boston, Charlotte, Chicago. Cleveland, Denver, Golden State, Indiana, Lakers. Memphis, Miami, Milwaukee, Minnesota, New Orleans, Orlando, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Sacramento, San Antonio, Washington. And then you got your 3-game teams, which are Brooklyn, Dallas, Detroit, Houston, the Clippers, New York, Oklahoma City, Portland, Toronto, and Utah. So 4-game teams. There are 20 of them, and that's 2/3 of the league. And then the rest of the league plays 3 games. No 5-game week, no 2-game week this week in week 7. And then, of course, the week after. And also, there's something very weird on the schedule. Whereas at the moment, there is 1 game scheduled on Monday, December 9th. A random New York-Toronto game. I don't know why it's scheduled on that day. I have absolutely no idea, and it feels like that's some sort of weird mistake. I don't get why that would be the case. It doesn't actually add up to me at all why there's just 1 game on that day, but there is, and again, I don't know. But that's what we're dealing with at this stage. So, that's where we're at in terms of that part of the schedule. Let's just take a look at how things go with the quality games for the week. And of course, like I said, we've got the busy day on Tuesday and the busy day on Sunday. So that means that Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are all lower volume days where there's more streaming capabilities. We've got one team this week, Boston, who has 4 quality games. So every one of the 4 games that Boston plays is on a low volume day. So when you're looking at Boston, guys, now they do have a back-to-back in there, and they've got a really busy stretch of games coming up. So you're going to have sits from Porzingis, you're going to have sits from Horford. Derek White got a sore foot yesterday, so maybe he doesn't play all of these games. So your Sam Houses, your Neemias Quetas, your Peyton Pritchards, these sort of guys are going to have increased value because they have 4 quality games, plus Porzingis, Horford, maybe White, maybe even Drew Holiday will rest a game in this period. There's a bunch of teams, 6 of them, that have 3 quality games. Atlanta, Chicago, the Lakers, Miami, Minnesota, and the Pelicans. Atlanta's a really good team to target here. 3 quality games for them in Week 7, plus they have qualified for the knockout part of the NBA Cup, meaning they have at least 1 quality game the week after, when there are going to be teams that probably have 0 quality games in Week 8. So Atlanta's at least going to have 1, and if they win that first one, that means they get 2. And they played both of their games on low volumes if they win their first knockout game. And then on the flip side, as you can probably tell, we've got those teams playing 4, those teams playing 3. I'm going to tell you the teams that play 1 quality game, and that means everyone else plays 2. But Houston, the Clippers, the Blazers, and the Jazz have 1 quality game. And the one that stands out there again is Houston. There's only 1 quality game for them in Week 7, but because they're in the knockout stage of the NBA Cup, they're at least got 1 the next week. They've at least got a game, I believe it's on either Tuesday or Wednesday, which are the 2 semi-final or the quarterfinal days. So they'll at least have 1 game on those days. I think that's the right days. Anyway, that's okay. Again, that schedule will come into view, I believe, on Wednesday this week, where that schedule will get announced for Week 8. But Houston, the Clippers, the Blazers, and the Jazz have only 1 quality game this week. So if you've been streaming some Blazer players in, maybe it's a Delano Banton, maybe it's the return of Rob Williams eventually, maybe it's whatever is going on in Utah, which is a massive avoid scenario. It's whether it's Amir Coffey, Chris Dunn, Kevin Porter, Nick Batum in deeper leagues. Not a great spot there for the Clippers, given the way that schedule plays out. So how are we streaming players in for this upcoming week? Well, again, there are a couple of different ways that you can do this, but given the way that everything plays out and the way that the schedule looks and the way where the quality games sit, if we take a look at this at Tuesday with 11 games on, we probably avoid. But if we go Monday, Wednesday, and then do the Thursday, Friday back-to-back, that means we can get 4 games with 2 ads. That leaves us with Saturday open to add another stream in and then another spot for additional stashes or whatever you want to do on a Tuesday or a Sunday or whatever. But you can use, with 3 ads, you can get 5 games in. You can get 4 games with 2 ads. So you can look at Atlanta, Brooklyn, Boston, Lakers, Miami, Minnesota to get the Monday, Wednesday combination. Again, ignoring an 11-game Tuesday in the middle. And then you can parlay that or flip that into a Chicago, Golden State, Sacramento, San Antonio, Thursday, Friday, back-to-back. So theoretically, a DeAndre Hunter / let's say the Miami one's a tough one. Minnesota, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dante DiVincenzo if he was dropped. The Brooklyn one's a really tough, man. Like a Jalen Wilson is probably who I prefer there over Martin and Zaire Williams. You could look at those, or Ben Simmons would be a good one as well. Flip one of those guys from Monday, Wednesday into a Ayo Dosunmu, a Buddy Hield, John Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski. Sacramento is maybe Malik Monk, Keon Ellis. Monk should just be rostered anyway, or a Spurs player there. And that gives you 4 games with 2 ads, and then you've got 2 more ads as a general rule to play with. But remembering, if you are in Yahoo, this is a way to get 4 extra games with 2 ads, and then saving 2 ads for the second half of the week, which they have screwed up in the week 8 portion of the week 7 matchup. You've got 2 more ads that you can save and use for teams in the NBA Cup knockout games. Yes, that's how we should be looking at that. We're going to come back and look at some quirks in the schedule. Before I do that, though, today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Yes, it is brought to you by BetterHelp. We know there are stresses in life all the time. There's always something that's going on. There's always a lot of things that get busy, especially at this time of the year as we head into the holidays. And think about the things that make you happy. And, I've been preaching a lot of positivity on this show as well, but there are so many things throughout this December period that can make you happy. Do you like staying home, being cozy? Do you like catching up with family and friends, wrapping up yourself in the winter areas of the world, in a nice warm blanket with a hot drink? Spending that time with friends, family, or even alone, depending on what it is that makes you happy. But sometimes you need that extra comfort or the ability to recognize where the comfort is. And therapy can be a great way to bring yourself some of that additional comfort, or recognizing some of the ways that you're able to be better and more positive in your life. So if you've been thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So get your comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right. Let us look in now at some schedule quirks across the NBA, because there's always going to be some of those. There's just not as many this week. Sometimes we have these 5-day breaks, or you don't play until Wednesday, or you're off on the weekend, and that's not really what's happening this week. There's only 2 instances during the week of a team having a 3-day break, and that is Brooklyn, who does not play between Thursday and Saturday, and it's the Clippers, who do not play between Thursday and Saturday. And we just talked about Brooklyn having the nice little Monday-Wednesday pseudo back-to-back, sandwiching an 11-game Tuesday, which is strong. And then they have the 3 days off, and then they're back for a 12-game Sunday. The Clippers, on the other hand, have only got 1 quality game for the week, and then they have that big Thursday to Saturday break, meaning that they play, I don't know if they play Monday or Wednesday. They play one of those 2 games. So it's a bad schedule for the Clippers. It's a good start to the week for the Nets. And then you have that 3-day break. But that's it. They're the only 2 teams with that big gap in the middle of the week. And that Brooklyn, like I said, they have that really good start, but then it gets rough. They're the only team that's got a 5-day stretch with 1 game. So they play Monday, Brooklyn, and then they play Wednesday. And then that's it. They're not on Tuesday, they're not on Thursday, they're not on Friday, they're not on Saturday. So while it's a good start to the week for Brooklyn, after that little Monday, Wednesday group, and this is where understanding how a schedule can actually be good and bad at the same time, which it is for Brooklyn, where you can start them off with that Monday, Wednesday, which is great. And then you're out. You're done. They don't play again until Sunday. 1 game in 5 nights after that. Yes? So again, I've talked Brooklyn 3 times here. Really good stream team to begin the week. They've got a 3-day break, which is bad, and a 1 game in 5 nights, which is bad, and they're the only team that does that. Still makes them an interesting team. That's where things are weird, and that's where you can get advantages in fantasy by understanding that it's not just about 4 games good, 3 games bad. Or even 4 quality games good and 3 bad, or whatever it is. It's about manipulating segments. Yeah, there you go. There's a phrase that you can maybe use, probably not though. Let's talk about little chunks again. Chunky stuff is what we love on this show. I'm a big chunk fan. What can we look at in terms of 3 games in 4-night sections of the schedule here for week 7? Remembering again, I do not know what happens in the second half of the week. Oh, not the second half of the week, the second half of the Yahoo matchup. Sunday to Wednesday, we've got a lot of teams there. We've got Brooklyn, Boston, Indiana, the Clippers, the Lakers, Miami, and Orlando that have 3 games in 4 nights between Sunday and Wednesday. On Tuesday to Friday, we've got a lot of teams. It's Golden State, Indiana, Milwaukee, Orlando, Philadelphia, Sacramento, and San Antonio. Wednesday to Saturday is only Boston, and we know that they're the only 4 quality game team this week, and that really takes advantage in that middle of the week portion. understanding there is a back-to-back there, and I believe their back-to-back is Friday, Saturday, and you're going to have the Porzingis, Horford, probably alternating, I would guess, games off, and then we watch for Derek White. And then to end the week, there's a million teams that play Thursday, or 3 games between Thursday and Sunday. Charlotte, Chicago, Cleveland, Denver, Golden State, Memphis, New Orleans, Phoenix, Sacramento, San Antonio, and Washington plays the 3 games in 4 nights to end the week. We can go in here and take a look at 4 games in 6 nights. That actually is a thing this week. Between Sunday through to Friday, we've got quite a few teams who have that little 4-game period. It's Boston, Indiana, the Lakers, Miami, Orlando, Sacramento, and San Antonio. Starts off or ends week 6 with a game on Sunday, and then there's 4 games in 6 nights. Between Monday to Saturday, it is Boston, and then between Tuesday to Sunday, that is a lot of teams. Charlotte, Cleveland, Denver, Golden State, Indiana, Memphis, Milwaukee, Orlando, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Sacramento, San Antonio, and Washington. And what we also have, again, remembering that there's no 5-game weeks, but there is, but there's not, but there is. Because Boston plays 5 games in 7 nights. But it starts Sunday of week 6, and it goes through to Saturday of week 7. So it doesn't look like a 5-game week on a schedule, but it is here. 5 games, 7 nights, for the Celtics. Watch for rest for this extremely good team with some guys that need that time off. Porzingis, Horford, maybe White, Drew Holiday. Watch for Tatum and Brown. They'll probably be okay, but you never know. 5 games, 7 nights, starting Sunday, ending Saturday for the Boston Celtics. And if we look at 5 games in 8 nights, there's actually a lot of teams that do that as well. Of course, Boston's one of them. That's Sunday through to Sunday. But you've got Cleveland, Denver, Indiana, the Lakers, Memphis, Miami, New Orleans, Orlando, Sacramento, and San Antonio. The schedule's not released for the Monday yet, so you might have some teams that play 5 games in 8 nights going Monday to Monday. But because I don't know that, I can't tell you, surprisingly enough. If we take a look at some back-to-backs, where they all sit in terms of Tuesday's an 11-game day, so you might not be able to stream guys in on that one, but even if you could, you can't anyway because there's no games on. Sunday to Monday is where we can look at stuff. Brooklyn, Boston, the Lakers, Miami, and New Orleans have that Sunday, Monday back-to-back. Monday, Wednesday's that fake pseudo back-to-back, which is really good for streaming. It's Atlanta, Brooklyn, Boston, the Lakers, Miami, Minnesota. There's no Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back, but there is a Thursday, Friday, which is Chicago, Golden State, Sacramento, San Antonio. Friday, Saturday, it is only Boston, and they're both streamable days, 7 and 7, so watch for your Nemeash Caters. You might get 21 minutes plus for Cater on both days, because Porzingis and Horford likely sit one each, or they could sit them both on the same day, which would open up a ton on one day and nothing on the other, which would actually be worse for us from a fantasy point of view. And then on the weekend, there is 7 games on Saturday and there's 12 games on Sunday. But there are quite a few teams with that weekend back-to-back. It's just probably less usable for us, given there are 12 on the Sunday. Charlotte, Cleveland, Denver, Memphis, Miami, New Orleans, Phoenix, and Washington goes through and gives you that back-to-back there over the weekend. What we're going to do now is come back and take a look at who is injured for the week. We're going to look at guys that might be returning during week 7, as well as some weekly league action as well. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Go and get ready to tackle all of the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, you can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So in the middle of the game, you get a hunch, you can go check out all of the live stats, all the live play-by-play, and so much more on that same page where you place those bets. So go to FanDuel.com and join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Let's take a look at some injury updates of what we know and what we don't know. And we talked... Actually, we'll get to that in a sec. I was going to give you a little bit of an update there, but we'll talk about it when we get to it on the screen here. These are guys that we know are very, very confident are not going to play during Week 7. Vince Williams Jr., Cam Thomas, and that Brooklyn scenario is just so wild because you've got Dennis Schroeder missing, you've got Dorian Finney-Smith missing. It's just a bunch of randoms are popping off. It might be Shake Milton or Keon Johnson or Tyrese Martin or Zaire Williams or Jalen Wilson. Wilson's the guy that I like out of that group the most, but yeah, it's pretty rough. And then in Charlotte is where the big stuff is. Trey Mann and LaMelo Ball are going to be out for a period of time here. We know that LaMelo is out at least 2 weeks, and I think Trey's probably out the same. So that means, and we talked about this yesterday, and the day before I think it was as well, maybe it was a Thanksgiving special that I dropped this one, where we're just adding Vasa Micic. I keep saying that wrong. Micic. Yes? Please. Balkan friends. Micic. Vasilije Micic. Please tell me that's right. I'll keep confusing myself. Micic. Yeah, we're adding him. Yes, he will have some bad. His shooting numbers are horrific this season, Micic. But he gets assists. He got 8 last game. You might get a steal here or there. 4 rebounds, 2 threes, 11 points. And for deeper leagues, not deeper leagues, for double, onyx, platinum, diamond, titanium leagues, you're looking at KJ Simpson as the backup there, who might even slide into like 16-teamers because Ball and Mann are going to miss time here. So Micic is the guy to roster in 12s. Simpson is the guy that you take a look at in those deeper formats. Mitchie Robinson's going to remain out. Paulo Banchero is out. And at the moment, they're going with Wendell Carter and Goga Badadze. And they're totally okay somehow to be used. And that's one of those things that's always really frustrating and confusing. And you think you got a pattern, right, where last season Carter would miss and Goga would start, and then Carter would come back and Goga would go out of the rotation. And now this time it's like, no, we're actually going to play Wendell at the 4 because Paulo's out. But also, we're going to play Goga more minutes now than when Wendell was out, which again makes no sense, but that's what they're doing. So we adjust to it and we move on and we move forward with it because, like, again, you can only have so many things that you can do. And the Magic have just never played Carter at the 4. And now they're like, nah, let's do it. Like, okay, you're doing it, I guess. Then we move on from there. Who else is injured? Well, almost certain we're not seeing Kawhi. I actually don't think we see him until January at this point. But I also don't know. Ben Shepherd is going to be out. Chet Holmgren's out. Emmanuel Quickley, I don't think we see this week. Zion Williamson will be out. Donovan Clingan won't be back this week either for Portland. And then we've got a bunch of guys where we might be getting returns on some of these players. We could be, or we're looking at that stage where Max Strus returns. Now, these are only the guys that sort of have standard league relevance. We're not going to cover every single injury option here, which we have a show for during the week as well that we do. Plus, every single preview show, basically, we do an injury update. But Strus is likely back some point this week. Kyle Lowry might be back, but you shouldn't care about that. The only impact he has is those of you like in deeper formats, or I guess there's a marginal impact for Lowry, not really. Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk might be back in Toronto. Patrick Williams with his foot soreness might come back and have any impact on Ayo Dosunmu. The Jazz, I just don't know about who's coming back there. I know John Collins and Larry Markkinen are back, and how that all plays out will be something to watch. And then Jordan Clarkson could be returning, and he could get some extra shots up, but he's also very iffy in terms of being a must for 12s. It might be the return of Chris Middleton on like 24 minutes a night, I'm guessing, but again, who could possibly know? Grade A Dick, the prestige penis, maybe he is able to return this week with that groin issue, and with him out, you've seen Gary Trent III, Jacoby Walter start, and Walter had a good first game and a pretty mid-second game, and I think the mid-second game is more realistic for him moving forward, and he's not a 12-team league guy. We might get Robbie Williams III back this week from that concussion, and then Ayton played like 1 million minutes last game, but also remember, when they had the 3 centers, Ayton played like 23 minutes. So what do? Does they play 35 minutes of Ayton and 13 of Williams, or is it 28 Ayton and 20 Williams, or is it 24-24? I literally don't know, but I know that if Williams gets 20 plus, he is a 12-team league guy. The unfortunate thing is that as soon as Clingan went down, I was like, let's go grab Rob Williams, and he got concussed in that same game. So of course he did. So that has not worked out at all. Klay Thompson might return, but I don't think you actually care in 12-team leagues. All that matters is that Grimes and Najee Marshall lose value. Jeremy Sohan's return could be coming this week. I do believe he's an ad. He has been very good this season, and he's been good this season while shooting 25% from 3 and 10 or 11 percentage points below his usual free throw number. So yeah, he did some of that with Devin Vassell out, but I actually think there's actually more improvement for Sohan coming, and I would grab him. Jeremy Grant's dealing with a knee problem. Of course he is, even though it's not March. Maybe he's out this week. I don't know. Denny Avdia is the guy that steps up. Now, Avdia's done this thing where, again, last season he was mid, and then guys went out second half of the season, he got increased minutes, the ball was in his hands, and he started shooting the three ball unbelievably. He was bad this season. His minutes got cut. He got benched. He played 23 minutes a night, and now he's playing some backup center. But more importantly, Jeremy Grant and Scoot Henderson have been out, meaning there are minutes starting at the 4, and there are shot and usage attempts, and there are ball handling attempts with no Scoot. So he is thriving at the moment. So for now, Avdia has that value, but it does require multiple players out, I believe, on that Portland team for Denny to be able to put up numbers. And that's exactly what we're seeing at the moment. I don't know whether the future MVP Kyle Kuzma will be back. While he is out, Keyshawn George is the guy that I'm interested in. I couldn't be less interested in Kyle Kuzma as a general player, but I do think he's going to be better than what he's been. In Indiana, we might be getting Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard back. We also might not. And when they do come back, that'll likely mean the end of Diamond League legend Quentin Jackson, so he probably won't have that value. And then TJ McConnell becomes less interesting as well. I don't think it'll impact Ben Mathurin, but we do want to watch that. Norman Powell is likely to return. Nick Richards has already been upgraded to questionable for Charlotte, while Mark Williams and Miles Bridges, maybe they're returning. But, we're never going to put any sort of expectations here on Mark Williams. But when Williams comes back, I definitely do want him over Richards. But, of course, at this point, it's Richards who is coming back first. What are we going to get first? Mark Williams returning or GTA 6? Who's to say? Like that joke? Yeah, that's a real Gen Z joke, isn't it? I don't know if Dennis Schroeder is coming back this week. He's dealing with some personal issues. Hopefully that everything's okay and he's back and that sorts out some of the nonsense in Brooklyn. Herb Jones could be back this week. So could Brandon Ingram, who's, of course, missed time. Of course he has. Zach Edey's return is likely coming, which is going to reduce Jay Huff and Brandon Clark. And it looks like indefinite timeline, out indefinitely legend Aaron Gordon's returning, because that is almost a assured thing. And just always remember, there's always the panic. Oh my God, he's out indefinitely. What does that mean? It means they're just not going to tell you. Because that happened 4 days ago. And now it's like, oh yeah, Aaron Gordon did a full practice. Okay, sick. So remember, out indefinitely does not mean a long time. It just means we cannot define when he is back. You'd love for them to be able to define, but sometimes you'd rather hear out indefinitely versus 3 months. Well, I know every time I'd rather hear that. So Gordon's returning. So if you wanted to make a preemptive move and move off of Peyton Watson, good, fine, do it. Cool, no problem. We might get Paul George back this week, I guess. He's upgraded to questionable, so he could be coming back, and maybe Joel Embiid is back. I get questions all the time. Hey, man, would you trade this player for Joel Embiid? No, I wouldn't. I would not trade anybody for Joel Embiid. Nobody. I don't even care. Someone sent me a question today. It was like, well, do you trade Lauri Markkanen for Joel Embiid? Or maybe it was the other way around. Would you trade Embiid for Markkanen? I don't want either of those guys. I want both of them off my team. If I actually drafted them, I don't want them there. And what sort of headache am I switching? Sure, you can trade Markkanen and get Embiid, and Embiid's a much better player than Markkanen, but does he play fewer games and wins it? I don't want either of them. I am not trading for Joel Embiid. I am not trading for Kawhi Leonard, and I am not interested in Lauri Markkanen really, unless it's just for an outside top 100 player, which it's probably not, considering he's playing a little bit better. We probably also get DeMar DeRozan back, the Iron Man who plays the most minutes in the NBA, who has now missed 5 games this season, because of course, Father Time gets you, or you just get hurt. Yeah? Yep. Derek White, I'm not sure whether he'll be available. And then Luka Doncic is doubtful for Saturday's game. The Mavs have a Saturday-Sunday back-to-back, so there's a chance that Luka plays in Week 6. Otherwise, I'm pretty certain he's going to return at some point here in Week 7. Let's go ahead and look at some weekly league guys to take a look at. I think all of these guys, and I've got 4 names I want to chuck up here that you can take a look at. They're available in over 60% of Yahoo leagues, and I think that if you grabbed them, you'd probably start them this week. Now, of course, this doesn't cover everybody who's available in your league, because guess what? I don't know who's available in your league, so I'm just going to give you numbers of 40% rostered or below players who I think are top 100 guys for the week. One of them is Goga Badadze, but that could change like that. That could change immediately. Like I said, we're not doing this anymore. Wendell's at Santa and Goga, you're back to third string, and that doesn't happen anymore. But I think we're okay for the time being. His teammate, John Isaac, also is playing 22 minutes a night. He's not scoring very well, but you know what you get with Isaac. You get a lot of blocks, you get some steals. He's a rebound guy sometimes with some threes. And in 22 to 23 minutes, we're okay with that. Ayodesumu is bad, but he's also just accumulating enough. And with 4 games this week, that's probably useful there. And then DeAndre Hunter also. The Atlanta Hawks have a very good schedule. I do not like Hunter's overall category league game. He is a a scorer who really doesn't do anything else and needs to be on hot streaks, but he is shooting well at the moment, and that's cool. That happens. Long term, it doesn't, but in the short term, it does. And with a nice little schedule plus a quality game the next week, which doesn't matter as much for weekly leagues, that's interesting. Now, also remember, if you're in a weekly league or in a Yahoo setting, the 14-day matchup, just pay attention to 4 games versus 3 games in week 7 because we don't know what's happening in week 8. And the theory is that everyone plays 2 games, although again, there's that random rogue, whatever that nonsense Knicks Raptors game is on the Monday that I don't really understand why it's there. But again, we will get more clarity in this. And I do believe the NBA slightly tweaked it, whereas last season, this week, was everyone plays 2 games in this time period. But I do, and then we had like a 0-game day, the NBA Cup final, and another 0-game day. And they're not doing that this season. What I understand they're doing is they've got the NBA Cup final on a Tuesday, a 0-game on the Wednesday, and I think the Monday will have games. I think there'll be games on the Monday. But again, we don't know how they are scheduling that. Last season, that is not what we had. But what I understand that they will do is there'll be some on the Monday to begin week 9. And that'll make next week even weirder. It's going to be weird. It's going to be weird. And I'm waiting for the people who didn't watch this show or any show that I put out this week to complain about Yahoo's schedule. But you don't have to complain about the show ending because it's happening. Or maybe you do want to complain because it's ending now. And what you can do, though, if you do want to complain, the best way to get complaints through is to hit a thumb up on this video. That'll get through to our complaints department, and they'll know that you complained about it, and we'll try and do something about it. Leave your comments down below as well, and don't forget, remember, we're doing good things. Small things, big things, something good. Yeah, we do things wrong, and we accept that, and we understand that, and we learn from it. But look, let's celebrate the positives. Let's keep things positive. Let's keep the vibes strong. And guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.